There's a familiar face. Emma, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Mark.
Gotcha.
Hi, everyone.
Hey there.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Welcome to OTM's Ask Me Anything. So today we have a guest, Hank Henry from Computershare, and he has participated in OTM's last in-person masterclass.
Aaron, I think it was that he said he survived.
Right, he survived it. That's right. Hank, do you want to give a brief intro?
Yeah, so my name's Hank. I'm based in Northern Ireland, and I work for Computershare. My role is global business partner. So I support our global core operations function, which is primarily the sort of key centers are North America, so Canada, US, large presence in the UK, a few offices in mainland Europe, South Africa, and then also Australia and Hong Kong. So about 2,500, 3,000 people in our operations function of a 15,000 person business.
Yeah, and thanks for being here, Hank. Aaron, do you want to go over just the purpose of our call today, why we're here, and then we'll take it from there?
Yeah, sure. So today we're here to answer any questions that you might have about our virtual masterclass. And we're going to answer any questions and any concerns that you might have. So yeah, Mark, do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself and then we can go from there?
Sure. I'm Mark LaScola. I am the colleague of Dan and Aaron and Chris. And I started the business 33 years ago, and I'm calling you from my flat in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. Chris, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Chris Furnell. I'm a senior consultant here at OTM. I'm calling you from a place called Portsmouth, which is on the south of the UK. UK is a really small place, but the best place to be, I've heard, is the south coast, where we get 3 days of sunshine every year. So I'm just off the back of enjoying those 3 days of sunshine this summer. I live here with my 2 kids. My journey, just in a real quick summary, is been doing this work for about 12 years. 8 of those as an internal practitioner. So have learned to appreciate the challenges of doing all design work as an internal practitioner, in 4 years specializing it as a external consultant, both in big consultancy and my preferred style is the on the mark way. So that's what's led me here. Dan.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Schmitz, and I'm calling you from the United States, the state of Colorado, and the city of Boulder. So if you like to downhill ski, this would be a good place for you. I've been with On the Mark for 4 years, and prior to joining On the Mark, I earned an academic credential in organization development. And one of the reasons I really like the On the Mark practice is it brings together the technical bits, the social bits, it integrates the whole change journey. So organization design is more than just a technical design. It's moving an organization from A to B, and then preparing it for further development out to C or wherever its future lies. So I'll stop there, but I just wanted to say I'm happy to see each of you, and hopefully we can make this a really productive session and meet your needs.
Dan and Chris are going to be the primary drivers on the and deliverers of the organization design masterclass, but we'll have guests coming in, such as myself and other team members, based on different topics. Hank attended. We try to alter a virtual masterclass within an on-site masterclass, and Hank attended the 5-day on-site in London back in July. And our next masterclass will be actually on site in and around somewhere in the UK, either Manchester or London, in the new year. So we try to alternate, but the content is similar. We just break it up into small bite-sized chunks online versus over 5 or 6 weeks versus 5 days in a row. Tamika, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, and I apologize. I'm en route, so I'm not in a place where I can share video right now. I'm Tamika Witten. I've worked in an internal consulting capacity, process improvement initiatives, and org design for about 15 years. And for the past year, I've stepped out on my own. So I'm an external consultant. I know this session isn't really targeted towards external consultants, so I'm here for the information. And I'm also interested, when we get around to questions, whether or not you all offer a masterclass for external consultants. But I'm located in Mesa, Arizona, so just about 30 miles or so outside of Phoenix.
And Tamika, and we will address this. It's not as black and white in terms of this call's not for, or our masterclass is not for external consultants. What we have to do is, and I'll get to it, but the headline here is we've invested over 33 years and probably high 6 to 7 figures in our solution. And we have to be very protective of our intellectual property because we compete on product leadership. And we'll go into that. So we do let externals into our masterclass. We just have to make sure we screen them, and we're very selective. So it's not as black and white, and I want to just kind of put that out there. So we'll have a chance to talk about that on our call. Tara, or is it Tara? Would you like to go?
Hi, it's Tara, and I'm glad to join this session. I do apologize for keeping the camera off, personal circumstances. I've got overall around 17 years of experience, international HR experience, and mostly in L&D, talent management, and succession planning. But organization design has always been my passion, and I've always kept written articles, but never done anything in practice myself. And literally last year, this time, I have resigned from the corporate world and I've started my own HR consultancy, and I'm joining from Turkey, Ankara. So it would be really interesting to know, if I join the masterclass, how would that benefit me in terms of practical application, given that I'm a consultant and I don't have an experience in, I don't know, designing organizations or redesigning. So that's my key question for today. Thank you.
Tara, before you put yourself on mute, what time is it where you're at?
It's 7 p.m. I'm in Ankara.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And that's, we'll let Hank take a stab at answering your question, because I think he's probably better positioned to do that. We'll wait on that, Hank, but let's finish the introductions. Srini, did I pronounce your name correctly? Your first name? How did I get it right?
Correct, Mark, correct. So my name is Prabhu. It's a Srinivasan is my surname. I live and work in Dubai. I work for PwC Consulting, and I lead the Middle East and Northern Africa engagements on cultural change and organizational change management. Org design is something that I newly picked up before I launched myself into OD. I wanted to understand briefly what it's all about, how it is differentiated from org design and org development, change management. What are the principles required? What are the models and all? So PwC had a structured org design team, but still I want to ensure that I have a proper ammunition before I go and talk to my clients. That's why I thought of like connecting with like-minded people, and then thought of joining the webinar. So it's 8 p.m., 8:15 in Dubai.
Yep. Prabhu, thank you. Thank you for joining as well. Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. Hi, everybody. I hope you're all well. It's great to hear where you're from and what the weather's like where you are as well, because I'm British, so we always talk about the weather first. So I've had over 25 years experience of operational leadership, always been fascinated by the part that design plays in any organisation, but haven't worked specifically in that field until relatively recently. So I've been in higher education, that's working in universities for the last 10 years, and have just completed a program, a large program working for a major UK university, and I was the organisation development change lead for that. I'm hoping to attend the masterclass later this month, so hopefully we'll see many of you there. And I have a few questions which I'm sure will either be answered or I'll have an opportunity to do so at the end. So great to see you, everybody.
Thanks, Emma. And Rahul, I think Rahul,
yeah,
crept
Rahul
in late.
came in.
Rahul, nobody noticed that you were late. Don't worry. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Rahul. I'm sorry, my video is off. My internet is a bit weak right now. I'm a support consultant at On the Mark, and I'm joining in from Darjeeling in India. I'll be shifting to the UK soon. I have a couple of years of consulting experience in the public and private sector, as well as in the non-profit in India. I've done a master's in organization development from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai in India. And I'm really looking forward to attending the masterclass, the fall masterclass, and going deeper into the OTM methodology, as well as connecting with the participants.
And Rahul, it's safe to say you took a master class before you joined On the Mark. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely, Mark. I got the opportunity to attend the virtual masterclass, and now I'm on the other side. So, amazing to be experience both sides.
Gotcha. All right. Well, why don't we open it up for questions that you might want answered about the masterclass? Maybe we start with Prabhu. Would you mind restating your, or maybe was it Tara who asked the question? Tara. Go ahead.
Hi again. So my question would be, given that I don't have experience in organization design but mostly organization design, would I be allowed to join the program? And second, do I need to have an experience for that? And of course, what will be the benefit of attending the course in terms of practical application of the knowledge?
Hank, before you go,
sorry, can I just add as well? I remember when I read about this masterclass, it was saying that there will be some case studies and also practical application. But given that I don't have a client as such for now for organization design, how would I probably be able, I don't know whether it's the writing assignments or coming up with some sort of solutions would be practical.
So Tara, before you go, before Hank goes, and maybe Hank, what you can address is the practicality and maybe what we did or didn't do in terms of case studies and what have you. Tara, what I will say is, what I've heard you say is you've got quite a bit of internal experience. Am I correct in the L&D and talent area? Am I correct?
And organization development as well, part of it.
Right. So that all that sum of your experience will really come in handy. The warning I would give you is we will kind of help you see things that you've never seen before in terms of internal organization and how they operate. And so the health warning to everyone is what you're going to get to see as a result from us is what we call the matrix, is seeing things entirely different, and particularly the world of work, than how you see it today. But your experience in totality will really be helpful for you in terms of design. So you don't need to come in with design experience, but it is helpful to have real work experience. It's really difficult for a university grad to come out without any experience and try to make sense of org design. It's a big leap.
Yeah, thank you.
So Hank, why don't I get out of your way and see if you want to take some of Tara's questions on from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's interesting from my perspective. So my background's in HR. So I think through the normal sort of cycle of that, you know, whether it was L&D side, whether it's employee relations side, talent acquisition, you know, the full range. I think, you know, back to your point, Tara, about not maybe having any organizational design experience, I think what maybe you don't realize is that a lot of those things form a lot of the elements that sort of come together to build that, you know, what a good organization should look like. So you will have, probably without realizing, a lot of the components, a lot of the knowledge components that you need to bring into the conversation. And I think what the program does really well, or what it did really well for me, was it showed just how, you know, one sort of design or concept over here impacts on so many other things, and how they all need to be aligned and in alignment to deliver the right outcome. And I think that was one of the things I took away from it, was you can't just necessarily change one thing over here without really trying to understand how it impacts on all of the other aspects of the design. And what I found really helpful about the program was it took us on a, you know, end-to-end journey of that process and of the models and the tools, and showed how they all worked. And it was very flexible in its delivery. So where, you know, maybe, and I'll make some numbers up here, where 2 hours had been assigned for a particular topic, if the group felt that actually we had, you know, we were done with it in 90 minutes, we could move on. But if it took 3 hours for us to really get the concept, then, you know, the time was spent to get that right. And the added value, if you like, the icing on you know, on top, was you get to see not only the case studies and the experience that OTM bring, but I think even more helpful was the other participants are bringing their own challenges, their own organizations, their own experience, and that's being woven through the subject matter. And for me, that's where the real learning comes out, you know, and the conversations you have with the other participants and what you learn from them in terms of their organization, their challenges, and the way they've got it designed really enriches the whole program.
That's great. Thank you.
Hank, would you, since just a little background, about 2 hours ago, we had a little bit of a reunion call for our July workshop. We do a follow up within 2 months with the team. Anyway, can you address Tara's question about practicality? I'm just thinking kind of the model you shared, and just from your perspective, how practical or pragmatic is the workshop?
So I think it's so the guys will probably remember I'm a reflector by nature. So take a lot of information in, and then like a barrage of questions. So that's, you know, tended to be my style. So more as the week went on, I think I started to ask more and more questions. So in terms of the practicalities of it, there was a, you know, really good mix of being given some theory and, you know, supported with some examples from the work that OTM did, and then actually, you know, working together with the other participants on the call to actually try out the techniques and put into practice some of the tools and so on. And you know, if you bring a project in and you've got some challenges that you're facing in your organization that you want to look at, then you actually get to work on your project right the way through the program, and you get the benefit of, you know, Chris and Mark or Dan or whoever, and you also get the benefit of the, you know, your fellow participants whenever you're pulling together this sort of practical examples. So I think, I mean, I don't know exactly what the split was, but I think it was probably more practical application rather than sort of just sitting back listening to theory. So I think from my perspective, that was really useful. You know, imparting the knowledge and then the practical application of it to help you, you know, sort of build the learning and the understanding. I think, Tara, that probably plays into your question around, you know, if you haven't got the experience and you haven't got the organization, where are you going to get to practice it? Well, you get a lot of practice you get a lot of practice in the masterclass itself.
Right.
Great, that's the key for me. Thank you.
Hank, there's a couple of things I might add to what you were describing, just Tara, to paint a picture. Is the words, Hank, you just used necessarily wasn't what you were saying after day one. I remember Hank sitting there going, oh my goodness me, I'm going to have so many questions this week for this group. But we couldn't get anything out of Hank after day one, because what I think was happening, Hank, is on the masterclass, we try and level set everybody's understanding on module 1 and 2 to really pull from everybody's experience before we thrust forward and make lots of assumptions about people's experience. So what was happening and what will happen on module 1 and 2 is we level set the group around ways in which on the mark approach an operating model design challenge and all of the intricacies of organization design before we thrust into lots of the practice, just so everybody sort of stood on the same firm footing, if that makes sense. And there's me managing everybody's expectations. If you come on the masterclass, then don't be surprised if you're a Hank after, you know, the first module, in that we try and level set everybody's understanding. The second thing, Tara, I would add is, if you're not coming with a case study, we've got close to 500 projects in on the mark, and we've got in our history, we've got some case study material that we can give you, and that can be your case study for the week, if you like. You can have one of ours and you can sort of retrospectively apply the learning to some case study material that we've got.
That's great to know. Thank you so much.
How about we open it up to other questions?
Yeah, I have one, if that's okay. The question I have for you is, how can I best prepare for the session to get the most out of it? So what kind of preparation should I be thinking about?
Well, maybe I can get us started. As we begin the series of modules, we have some pre-reading and a bit of pre-work. So if you think that there are 30 hours of delivery, programming, conversation, there's probably another 10% or so, maybe 15% of preparation work. Sometimes that occurs before a module, and then sometimes there are reflection questions following a module. So for the percolators like Hank and for me, those follow-up questions that we might pose at the end relate to the conversation that we just had, and oftentimes will point in the direction of where we're headed. So I would say that the best way to prepare is to prepare yourself to commit to the pre-work. It's not a huge burden, but it's important. And show up with energy and a readiness to contribute, and not only learn from others, but help others learn from you.
I think the one thing I'll say, Emma, delivering this virtually has its own set of challenges, because we're in this space right here, which is almost not as 3D as we'd like, but we do quite a bit of breakouts, and there'll be small team sessions, particularly in Zoom. So the other thing that I would say to do, a couple things. Number one is make sure you got a bit of a quiet place and you got some stable internet service. Yeah, and the other one is just come prepared to reflect on what's being taught. And then each workshop, we start with a reflection looking back. And sometimes, as Hank will attest, is that reflection will actually, what we maybe planned for 15, 20 minutes might be an hour, because there's somebody has brought up a particularly substantive or pithy topic that needs unpicking, and everyone's wrestling with the same thing. So so the nice thing is that each module, we start with a reflection on the past piece, and then work our way forward. And the other thing I would say is, don't worry about the agenda so much. Know what you're heading towards, but don't worry about managing the time. That's on our end, and making sure you get exactly what you need. So that would be my addition. Rahul, you took the masterclass less than a year ago. Would you add anything for Emma in terms of preparation?
Yeah, I mean, I think even I had the same question when I was before the masterclass. And so I think one thing, Emma, that, I would say don't do is, don't feel burdened or feel that you need to read a lot or you need to be fully prepared. It's not an exam, basically. It's an experience. It's about unlearning. And so just, give yourself that space because you're already doing a lot in the day. So, what Mark said and what was shared earlier, it's basically about doing the basics, about, planning for the day, planning for the session. I would even add maybe keeping a diary, with whatever question that you have after each period that you read, and sort of having a list of questions that you would want to ask before each session. So maybe that could also help. That's what even I did for my preparation.
That's really helpful. And Mark, you've also answered my other question, which was about how does the experience differ online versus in person, but you've answered that for me as well. Thank you.
Well, the other thing, Emma, is we do it in three hour chunks. Am I correct, Dan and Chris?
Yep.
Yes.
3 hours in a substantive conversation can fly by. So the key is that we do it every other day. I think Tuesday, Thursday. Am I correct?
That's right.
Tuesday, Thursday, 3 hours. And so that time flies by. And I think Rahul's suggestion of keeping a journal or keeping notes, because there's a lot of pennies, as you say in the UK, pennies that will drop, and questions that you'll have. And that's really, it's so critical, as we don't want to come to these sessions in virtual land and just be pontificating and talking at you. So the importance of the interaction and the activity and really fielding your deeper questions is really a core part of the dance that makes it engaging and lively and as Hank described, I think more fulfilling for everybody involved, because what you soon realize is, yes, Hank works for a technology company and Tara's out on her own, and everyone's other internals have different experiences in companies, but there's so much similarity between internal experience in an organization and where things go awry, that you begin to, I think, learn that. And that just comes through sharing and people talking about what it's like to be where they're at. So
Mark, if I could maybe just add in terms of preparation, having done the 5-day masterclass, there's a lot of new thinking, there's a lot of new ideas introduced, and I think it was good. So I was away from home. I had 5 days to completely dedicate to the program. I think one of the challenges with maybe doing it sort of virtually is going to be your headspace coming into it. And if you've just finished another call from work and you're going into it with that in your mind, then your ability to process some of this thinking may be inhibited a little bit. So if I would recommend, if you can, have a break before you're going into the call, get your head in a good space, get it cleared, because that'll put you in the best place then for taking on the new ideas and so on.
Yeah, it's a really good call out, Hank. One of the things I was going to say is somewhere between session 2 online and session 4, you'll experience quite a bit of cognitive dissonance, because what happens is that you try to take your current experience and take org design and stuff it in there, and it's not going to work. But doesn't mean you won't be trying. You'll keep trying until all of a sudden you'll be articulating it, and that struggle will come out in different ways. And so Hank's point of reflecting on really thinking about how does this challenge whatever assumptions and viewpoints in global view you have on the world of work, I think will definitely challenge, but you'll have that experience, and it's really helpful to give yourself the time and the space and the reflection to kind of be in the right headspace. How about other questions? Prabhu, do you want to give it a go?
Yes. So I have 6 questions, but I'll just take one by one. Yeah. So I was just reading the brochure, and I can see that I think 3rd, 4th schedule masters, like it's basically on change management. So that's what I can see. Is it like how are you going to mix and match the org design with change management? That's
well, in our world, Prabhu, there's no such thing as change management. That's kind of a dead thing in the water. So I'm going to just be candid with you. Change management is really outdated and in our world, completely ineffective. What we're going to teach you is accelerated change readiness. And we're going to show you how that gets integrated into the design. In our world, Prabhu, there's no such thing as going to implementation and calling in the change readiness troops. That's total ridiculous and nonsense and totally ineffective. And it's totally based on compliance-based change and top down. So you're getting Mark LaScola on the Mark view of the world. And so I would say probably right away, what you're going to find is whatever you think of change management is going to be thrown out the window. And the way you think about change is going to be challenged and then built on.
No, the reason I asked because I saw the change agents role, and then integration of change agents with the neuroscience. So it's very
So one of the things what you're exactly correct is it's if you've read some of the current science on change and how our brains work, there's a terrific article that we're going to have you read called The Brain at Work. Another one, The Human Sigma, both the HBR articles on neuroscience and the brain and people. If you read those things, change management, as we traditionally know it, is really pretty useless in terms of aligning with its neuroscience and how we experience change. And so what you're going to learn is how to integrate change all the way through the process rather than an after the fact come in at the end kind of pro-sci method. Right.
Prabhu, the second part of your question there about the change agent roles, we look at different consulting methods. So as a practitioner, what are the 3 different approaches that are right in front of you in terms of choices, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of those 3?
And you'll
Mark, you just made my $58,000 degree irrelevant masters in change management. Thank you for that.
Well, you've clearly come to the right place.
Yeah. Hopefully I would bring my professors also and tell them, hey, you know what, this is what you should join actually. Yeah. Thanks for that.
There's Prabhu, there's a hidden inside that or maybe it's not a joke, the door is open for your professors to come in. The challenge with some of where that comes from is it's taught in isolation. So how do we take change and people and an event as a very narrow topic? And what we do is we lift it up and we say, well, why are you changing in the first place? And actually, what is your fundamental approach in that process? And therefore, we really challenge this sort of sequential thing of we do some design work, and these are the people involved. We then do some stakeholdery work, and these are the people involved. We get some approvals, and then we move into this engine called, now let's make it happen and implement. And before we implement, or during the implementation, we need to roll out these change managers who help people adopt something that they potentially weren't part of, didn't know about, is thrust upon them, and is baked with what I think is quite often lots of assumptions and missed and flawed thinking. And therein line, we have an interesting holistic challenge of, well, actually, if we change the way in which we went about this whole process in place, then how do we reduce the need for quote unquote, traditional change management? So it's the isolation of those topics, which I don't think has necessarily helped people really grasp that fundamental aspect of change.
Yeah, in an industry, Prabhu, what you're going to learn from us is industry, every business, including the business you work in, suffers from sub-optimization and functionalization of services, which really makes it a more mechanistic approach. And so what we're going to teach you is just the opposite of that, is how do you do this along the way. I guess so let me stop there. You had 6 questions. What were the other 5? Let's get
Excuse me, I just want to add in one quick point. Prabhu, I went out to your LinkedIn profile and noticed that you went to CASE. And so I assure you that what you learned at CASE will apply. And we will not have deconstructed the entire value of your degree in the process. So you can feel confident in that.
I was just joking. I mean, I know Mark, I know, that's fine, thanks.
I like the humor, so it's good.
But that was a very serious humor, by the way. Anyway, so the next question is like about the current assessments. So we've been involved with a lot of organizations to first study that the current status of assessments. Unfortunately, that we don't have any toolkit sort of a stuff which we haven't built. So is there any toolkits that you'd be providing us as a part of the program that I can actually review it and then see how it's possible to implement?
This cuts right off, Prabhu. This is where we have to kind of draw the line. So we're not going to provide you our methodology, and the toolkits that you use are not going to be available for you to use at work because you're a direct competitor.
Of course.
So what you're going to have to do is we have a legal agreement that you'll have to sign that basically says we're teaching you about X, but here's the limitations of what you can do with that. So the way I would answer that is in your particular position is what we can't do is have you take that back into your organization and say we should be doing that. To answer your question very clearly, absolutely. We have a very clear methodology for doing a current state. It does not involve ants on a picnic basket, consultants running around an organization and interviewing people. But it does, we do have that available. I will plant this seed. We do sell our methodology, our entire solution with training, if that's of interest to your business. And we have 2 or 3 projects a year where they're building an in-house organization design capability, and we sell them our solution off the shelf along with training and development and support.
Excellent. No, the reason I asked because of course I won't be using for PwC consulting because we already have our inbuilt capability, but some sort of understanding and analysis of how the global org design functions. Like I've been working with Rofe Park also, I've been with CASE also. Just want to have a bit of a comparison studies on what happens in each region. Because I noticed that what is working in most of the regions like US and Australia, it's not working in the Middle East because sort of a bureaucracy is there, a lot of government organizations, they have their own red tapeism. So
well, it's about power and culture, right?
Of course, yeah.
So
PDI.
yeah, when you're right, the problem becomes that the solution is maybe based on Western thinking and doesn't incorporate the different cultures and norms of each country. So there are distinctions, and we have done design work in the Middle East and the Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, and others. So there are differences, but there's also more similarities.
Okay, so I'll just move next question about the operating model. So is it part of the program or you have any advanced classes for operating models apart from this org design?
Chris, you want to take that?
Yeah. So I'm just gathering my thoughts, Prabhu. I think the way I'd answer it, and actually I might invite Hank to offer his view from a participant, is we chunk out, we start with that very definition of what is a business model, what is an operating model, what's the difference? And then what you'll find us do in the masterclass is we get down to a level of granularity where we have a particular view that, organization design is sometimes perceived as just the people bit. It's about reward, it's about job evaluation, it's about job descriptions and reporting lines and an org chart. And then there's this big thing over here that's called the operating model. The way I'd answer it is we fold the 2 things together and we say, how do we consider both of them as a sort of an integrated topic? So you'll find our masterclass starts and very much centers around the operating model. And then my thought, Hank, is as a participant, we get to sort of the level of granularity and you go, okay, you know, these are where the connections are between those two terms.
Well, Hank said it best, is all the parts of the business that you can even begin to imagine, Prabhu, go into an operating model. Right, all of it. The management system, the glue mechanisms, the L&D, the HR components,
Finance,
all of
HR,
those things
corporate,
fit.
yeah, correct,
Hank,
so
did
there
you want
won't be a
to?
separate topic for this, right? It's a part of the program itself.
Yes. Yeah. And Prabhu, think of the masterclass is really all about how do you modernize and optimize an operating model. So really that's its focus. How do you do that collaboratively? And then we'll get into the granular level detail that most people, in my experience, associate with the term org design.
I noticed that these discussions are actually like someone with at least 40-50% of experience, or someone who has at least be a part of the org design. Are they relevant candidates for these programs? Or like, I just want to come back to one of the participants asked this question, like, what is the eligibility for this? Because, you know, these discussions of operating model or design and all requires at least some sort of experience. So I was just very curious to know, like, yeah, I hope Mark got my question, I guess. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I maybe just repeat or slightly paraphrase what Mark said earlier on, Prabhu, which is our masterclass really isn't for people that have just popped out of university with no work or life experience. And the life experience is as important as the work experience. You know, my provocation is, have you got enough experience to figure out how the work really how the world really works? And actually, when we apply that to business, and it's about relationships and dynamics and power and politics and trade-offs, and the perfect world doesn't exist. You know, there's some fundamental things where we say people need a level of experience where they've at least worked in an organization, made more helpful if you come from a background with experience in strategy and strategy development. You might be a supply chain expert, and actually that's relevant because an operating model runs throughout, you know, a supply chain. So I wouldn't want to answer your question in a narrow way to say, hey, you have to have worked in a HR background. That's advantageous because you'll look at the operating model in a particular way. You might have a lot of experience in strategy development. That's advantageous. So really, I think we're at a criteria, Prabhu, that says we'd probably have a polite conversation with a fresh out of university graduate to say, we don't think you've got enough experience to really learn and apply this work. But if you've got 4 or 5 years experience plus working in business, then this is the masterclass for you, because we'll be able to, again, as Mark said earlier on, change the paradigm in which you look at how a business works and all of the moving parts through the 10 modules.
Is there any other people who want to ask questions? I don't want to like hijack the entire conversation.
We'll come back around to Emma and Tara. Did you have, having listened to some of the other questions, did you have other questions that you wanted to ask?
I do. I've been listening, and the question popped up. So my question would be, after the course, should I expect a post-course support? In terms of, for example, if I've got a question, can I come back to you for not necessarily a consultation, but at least to just sort of speak to someone just to make sure that I'm on the right path with application part of it.
Dan, how about you take that from your experience, and then happy to supplement that.
Sure. Tara and all, the way I would characterize it is you're joining a learning group, and On the Mark is part of that learning group. So we make ourselves available to you for those types of follow-up calls. If you have a question, we're happy to set up a 30 or 60-minute call. Of course, there needs to be some limit to that, but we've never practically reached that with any of our past alumni members. So the short answer is, your after masterclass support is driven by you and your needs. Sometimes we will set up maybe a 6 or an 8 week rendezvous just to bring people together one last formal time. in order to answer questions that you have based on your application. But aside from that, it's really driven by you and your needs, and we make ourselves available.
Tara, I could just add to that, having completed the program. So there's been a couple of occasions, in the last 6 weeks when I've had to reach out. Didn't have to when I took the opportunity to reach out to Chris in particular, and got the response. I was looking for some examples of some models and things that he'd used previously, that I asked could he share, and as Dan said, there was no issue with getting that, and the support was there. So that's a real practical example of what Dan's just said.
That's great. Thank you.
I don't have any further questions, so probably if you want to continue.
Yeah, Emma, for being kind. So my next question is like about the creating a case studies. Usually what happens is that some of the programs based on case studies. So you have a case studies based classes, or it's just a presentation or a mix of. I also saw 70-20-10 model as in the brochure. So just want to check how it's aligned with this program. If we can deep dive on that.
Want to take the first question? Let's just take one at a time.
Do you want to take it, Mark?
No, I'm happy to wait.
I take the case study part. Dan, do you want to pick up the second part of the question around 70-20-10?
That would be fine. Yeah.
Just in order, Prabhu, I guess the case study, the big part of the case study is the 70% in the model, as well as the extended support afterwards that Hank expressed. I'll also paraphrase Hank from earlier on, which is if you've got a case study, let's say you've got a project that you're already working on, or you have recently worked on and you want to do a retrospective on it, or you've got a project coming up in 3 months' time and we could place some sort of hypothetical scenarios and some planning. Really, you could bring in a case study that's relevant to you, and you get to work on it throughout the whole masterclass, as Hank said earlier on. So you get to dissect it, decompose it, build it back up again, and we give you all of the tools during the program to really pull it apart and apply it. But at the same time, as Tara said earlier on, if you don't have a really sort of closely related case study, then we can give you one from our toolkit. But really, I would say that's in 10 modules in a virtual course. We have to sort of frame that in the 70-20-10 limitations. That really is your 70% of application, as well as what Hank said earlier on, is you're learning from other participants' case studies at the same time. I would like to hope that really the theoretical side of what Dan and I intend to take you through is about 20% of the program. Really 80% of it is about then saying, so how do I now apply that? And we keep coming back to the theory, but what we're known for, Prabhu, is being very practical, very pragmatic with stuff. We're not a university. We're not here to throw an academic textbook at people. We want to really get after the application as much as we can in that 70%. Dan, did you want to build on?
Thanks, Chris. That was a pretty comprehensive answer, and it didn't give me a ton of room to add some incremental value here. I think I would just reinforce that there are cases threaded throughout the entire module or masterclass. Some we bring in a more formalized sense. Some you bring in your past experience or your present or future intentions. Some others bring with the work that they're engaging, and they have a question that's related to it. And so, of course, they would have to set up the context a bit. And so that becomes its own on-the-fly case for learning. As far as 10, 20, 70, I broadly look at the masterclass as the 10. And the balance of 90 is applying the learning that you take away from the masterclass. And that's one of the primary reasons we ask people to come in with something in mind, whether it's a present activity or something that's just over the horizon. And to connect some dots here, I just said that the 10% was really the masterclass. At least that's the way I look at it. Tara asked a question about after masterclass support. So when you are applying the knowledge that you generate and you want a little side-by-side support, And if you're willing to pick up the phone and call one of us and seek that support, then that's how we contribute to the 20 and the 70 as you move forward in your own organization or with a partner organization.
Good, thank you. So my next question is about the accreditation. So is there any way where I can post this course, I can get into the EODF and then get accreditation as a part of the program after doing the project?
Yeah, so Aaron can send you kind of linkages to find out more about the certification. One of the prerequisites for receiving organization design, certified organization design professional is taking an endorsed course. Our course has been endorsed by the organization design community, the European Organization Design Forum, as well as the US ODF Organization Design Forum. And so it satisfies one of the prerequisites. You'll have to pay, I think you pay $100, and then you complete the rest of the registration put on by one of those three organizations, but it's all the same registration. They're just different channels.
Right. Prabhu, the certification is broken down into the education part that Mark's described and also experience. So the ODC, to give the certification, look for some pretty substantive 2 years worth of experience of doing the work in the field. But as Mark said, we can send you the link after this webinar, and you can do some more reading up on the ODC website.
That would be great. Thank you.
We also, Prabhu, just as we opened the webinar, we also send you T-shirts to say "I survived the On the Mark Masterclass."
Well, no, it actually says we don't care about people on the back, right?
Well, Hank inspired us to create these T-shirts, so he now takes royalties from every T-shirt that we send. So,
right, it's his retirement income. Any other questions, team members, colleagues?
Prabhu, did we get all your 6?
I think I asked 7. So yeah,
You snuck in an extra one, did you?
yeah.
That's all right. That's why we're here. Ask us anything. We don't have the winning lottery numbers or anything like that, but certainly can answer some questions about the masterclass. Dan, what are the dates again? Just Dan and Chris, what are the dates?
Well, it starts on September 20, and then it continues on Thursdays and Tuesdays for 10 sessions. So you can kind of sort that out on your calendar.
Right. All right. Anything else from our colleagues here?
Oh, yeah.
Emma?
Last question, Mark. Sorry for that. I just got reminded about the payments. So is it payable in installments? Because in this part of the world, there are banks which doesn't allow more than $1,500 as a payment for the one time. So can I make a split payment, or if you can get a bank account, or how does it look like?
We can do a variety of ways, Prabhu. You're not the first person in your neck of the woods. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to pay. We can also have you come do dishes for us and wash our cars and as payment as well. But yeah, of course, I'm all kidding aside. There's lots of ways we can get you to
get me a
pay.
business class ticket in Etihad, Mark. I'll be on the flight.
Perfect, Prabhu. Exactly. We'll get that for you. Exactly. So we can figure that out.
Or affording a business class ticket, or me washing the cars?
Yes, all those things and payments.
Thanks.
And thank you for laughing with me on that.
That's fine. I'm used to it. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other piece of this work is if we can't laugh at ourselves, what's the point? So. All right, anything else? We don't want to keep you longer than you want to be here, but hopefully it's been helpful.
Yeah, yeah, Mark, I think if you don't mind, I know Tamika dropped off the call, but she asked the question about external consultants at the beginning. Would you mind just putting 30 or 60 seconds to that, Mark, given as Tara and Prabhu had introduced themselves, they're sort of working in that external consulting capacity at the moment?
Yeah, so the challenge, as I said earlier, so I don't want to be duplicative, or I apologize for being redundant, that we compete in the marketplace by product leadership and have one of the most comprehensive, integrated and holistic organization design solutions out there in the industry. So we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in documenting that and ensuring that we have that, tools and how-to guides and templates and examples and very clear methods and decision tree. We do not sell that as part of our masterclass, although you get parts and pieces of it. The challenge for us is for internal consultants, and particularly Prabhu, not you, but working for a larger consultancy who has their own internal practice. That becomes a bit of a conflict for us. And so for less so for the Taras of the world, because Tara is not going to be competing with us in the marketplace like we do with the company that you work for, and the McKinseys and the Deloittes and the Boston consulting groups who we compete with all the time.
Sorry.
So, Tara, I'm sorry.
It's not happening. Rest assured, it's not happening. I'm not.
No, exactly. So what we require for the external consultants is basically a signing of a legal document that says how you can use what we're teaching you and how you can't use it. And so in your case, it would be, you can't take that internal, any tools that you receive from us have to keep our copyright on it. And you can use it in your own individual practice, but are unable to share that with your team. So there's some pretty strict limitations to that, and it's just, hopefully you'll understand why we have to do that. Unfortunately, these things all are born out of unfortunate situations where people have taken things and pretended like they were their own, and all of a sudden we've got a competitor out there doing our work. So an ounce of prevention, as we say in the West here, an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. And so we have to take preventative steps to ensure that we protect what it is that we've invested in. That's it. All right. Well, want to close it up, Erin?
Yeah. Well, you'll all be receiving this recording in a follow-up email, but if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat right now. And I just wanted to thank everyone for being here, and hopefully this was really helpful.
All the best, everyone. Thank you.
Definitely.
Hank, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank
everyone.
you, Emma. Hank, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hank.
Welcome. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks,
Well,
Prabhu.
nice to meet you all.
Bye.